In the bustling terminal of New York's JFK Airport, the morning sun streamed through the expansive windows, illuminating the throngs of travelers rushing past. To any casual observer, Jordan Sanders appeared to be just another passenger, clad in a simple hoodie, jeans, and sneakers. Yet, unbeknownst to most, he was the founder and owner of Horizon Airlines, a prominent name in the aviation industry. Jordan had built Horizon from a modest startup into a respected airline, driven by a passion for treating all passengers with kindness and dignity, no matter their background or attire. Recently, however, Jordan had caught wind of unsettling reports about some staff members treating certain travelers poorly, often making snide remarks. Disturbed by this shift away from the values he had instilled, Jordan decided to witness the situation firsthand. He often traveled incognito, purchasing first-class tickets under a pseudonym and dressing casually to blend in with the average traveler. Today was no different, as he clutched his boarding pass for a first-class seat on a flight to Los Angeles. As he approached the gate, he offered a polite smile to the gate agent, who scanned his pass with a hint of surprise. "Enjoy your flight, sir," she said, her tone slightly forced. Jordan sensed the judgment but chose not to engage. He walked down the jet bridge, steeling himself for whatever lay ahead. Upon entering the first-class cabin, Jordan was greeted by the familiar comforts: plush seats, ample legroom, and the inviting scent of fresh linens. He settled into seat 2A by the window, placing his well-worn backpack in the overhead bin. Just then, a flight attendant named Ava approached him, her demeanor warm and welcoming. She offered him a choice of champagne or sparkling water, and Jordan opted for water, thanking her with a genuine smile. However, tension soon filled the air as another flight attendant entered the cabin, her presence commanding attention. Her name was Rachel, and she moved with a stiff posture, scanning the rows as if sizing up the passengers. Unlike Ava, Rachel's approach was cold and distant. Jordan attempted to greet her with a nod, but she ignored him, focusing solely on the other well-dressed passengers. "Sir, may I see your boarding pass?" Rachel asked, her tone lacking warmth. Jordan raised an eyebrow, surprised. "I already showed it at the gate," he replied calmly, handing it over again. Rachel scrutinized the ticket for what felt like an eternity, her lips pressed tightly. After what seemed like an uncomfortably long moment, she returned the pass and said, "We have certain standards in first class. Are you sure this is where you belong?" Her voice was loud enough for other passengers to hear, and Jordan felt heat rise in his cheeks. Forcing a small smile, he replied, "Yes, I'm sure this is my seat." Rachel stepped back, crossing her arms. "If you say so," she muttered, turning away. Jordan noticed a couple across the aisle exchanging puzzled looks, and a man in the row ahead frowned as if offended on his behalf. He bit his tongue, reminding himself that he was here to observe, not to blow his cover. As the flight prepared for takeoff, Rachel continued to ignore Jordan while being overly attentive to the other passengers, refilling their drinks and engaging in friendly banter. Whenever she passed Jordan's seat, she barely acknowledged him, her demeanor as frosty as ever. Ava, on the other hand, tried her best to compensate, asking Jordan if he needed anything. Once the plane reached cruising altitude, meal service began. Ava approached Jordan with a beautifully plated chicken dish, inquiring if he needed anything else. Before he could respond, Rachel suddenly appeared, interrupting in a loud voice. "Ava, please make sure passengers who belong here are taken care of first," she emphasized the words, "belong here," casting a pointed look at Jordan. A hush fell over the cabin, and Jordan clenched his jaw. He was angry, but he reminded himself to stay calm. He was here to learn about the culture he had created, not to escalate the situation. As the flight continued, he felt more and more like an intruder in his own airline. Midway through the flight, Jordan decided to stretch his legs and walked toward the front of the cabin. Rachel immediately approached him with a frown. "Sir, I need you to return to your seat," she ordered icily. "I'm just stretching," Jordan replied, trying to keep his cool. Is that a problem? Rachel stepped closer, lowering her voice but not her hostility. I don't know how you got into first class, but I have my suspicions. If you don't go back to your seat right now, I'll call security when we land. Jordan's heart raced. Security? For standing and stretching? He stared at her in disbelief, and other passengers began to glance over, their eyes wide with confusion. Was this really happening on his own airline? Reluctantly, Jordan returned to his seat, his mind racing. Moments later, an elderly man across the aisle leaned over and whispered, "I'm sorry you're being treated like this. It's not right." Jordan nodded in gratitude, appreciating the small gesture of solidarity. Later, a woman from the economy cabin approached Rachel, looking worried. She was in her 40s, dressed simply, and held her purse tightly. "Excuse me, my son is really cold, he has a fever, and there are no blankets left in economy. May I please have a blanket from up here?" "I'm willing to pay," she pleaded. Rachel rolled her eyes, raising her voice for everyone to hear. "These blankets are for first-class guests only. We can't just hand them out to anyone who walks up here. Go back to your seat." The woman's face crumpled, tears gathering in her eyes as she looked around helplessly. Jordan couldn't stand it any longer. He rose slowly, ignoring Rachel's glare, and retrieved a blanket from his seat. "Here, take mine," he said gently to the woman. "I hope your son feels better soon." Relief washed over her face as she accepted the blanket and hurried back through the curtain, whispering her thanks. Rachel's eyes flared with anger as she stepped closer to Jordan. "That blanket is meant for first-class passengers, not for economy," she hissed. Jordan met her gaze steadily, his voice calm but firm. "I am a first-class passenger. It's my blanket, and I can give it to whoever I want, especially a sick child." Rachel's face reddened, and she stepped back, her authority challenged. "If you can't respect the rules of this cabin, I'll have to inform the authorities when we land." A few passengers gasped, and Ava looked shocked, trying to intervene, but Rachel waved her away. Jordan couldn't believe he was being threatened for showing kindness. He felt humiliated, trapped in a nightmare of his own making. As the flight neared its end, Rachel continued to shoot Jordan dirty looks while attending to every other passenger with forced politeness. When the captain announced their descent into Los Angeles, Jordan saw Rachel scribbling on a piece of paper, likely preparing a report against him. When the plane finally parked at the gate and the seatbelt sign turned off, Rachel stood near the exit, as if guarding it. As passengers gathered their things, Jordan took his time, letting others go first. He wanted to see the look on Rachel's face when he passed by. As he stepped into the aisle, Rachel said stiffly, "I'll be speaking to my supervisor about you." Her voice was loud enough that several passengers paused, taken aback by her boldness. Jordan looked her in the eye and gave a small, calm nod. "You do that," he replied evenly, maintaining his cover for now. He would save his true identity for later. The following morning, still reeling from the previous day's events, Jordan woke in his hotel room. The humiliation lingered in his mind, yet he felt a sense of purpose solidifying within him. He sat down with his coffee and composed an urgent email to his executive team, requesting a meeting to address a serious matter that had come to his attention. At 10 a.m., he gathered his team in the conference room. As they settled in, concern washed over their faces. Jordan stood at the head of the table, arms folded, his expression grave. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice. We have a major problem that requires immediate attention." He recounted the events of the previous day's flight, detailing how he had been publicly humiliated by Rachel. The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. "This incident is a direct affront to everything we stand for as an airline," he concluded. Jordan's team listened intently, their expressions a mix of shock and concern. "We need to take action," he said. "I want a thorough investigation into this flight and a review of the crew's actions. Furthermore, we must ensure that our training and values are reinforced across the board. As Jordan detailed his expectations, he could feel the resolve building in the room. They knew the stakes were high, and their reputation was on the line. After the meeting, Jordan felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had witnessed firsthand the consequences of neglecting the core values of respect and empathy. That afternoon, Jordan received a message from his PR team about a passenger who had posted a video of the incident online. The footage captured Rachel's condescending tone and her threat to call security. It was clear evidence of the humiliation he had endured, and it only fueled his determination to enact change. A press conference was scheduled for the next day. Jordan prepared himself to face the public and take full accountability for the incident, knowing that honesty was the only path forward. He wanted to assure everyone that Horizon Airlines would emerge stronger and more committed to its values than ever before. When the day of the press conference arrived, Jordan stood before the cameras, dressed in a crisp suit. He spoke candidly about his experience, revealing his identity as the mistreated passenger. "What happened on that flight was unacceptable," he stated firmly. "We pride ourselves on treating every passenger with dignity and respect, regardless of their appearance." As the media bombarded him with questions, Jordan remained poised and sincere. He detailed the steps the airline would take to ensure such an incident never happened again, including retraining staff and enhancing customer service protocols. He emphasized that this was not just about punishing one employee but about reinforcing a culture of kindness throughout the organization. In the weeks that followed, Horizon Airlines underwent a transformation. Jordan and his team worked tirelessly to implement new training programs focused on empathy and customer service. They fostered an environment where every employee understood the importance of treating passengers as valued guests, not mere numbers. Jordan continued to conduct incognito flights, not to catch anyone off guard, but to ensure that the airline's values were upheld consistently. He witnessed firsthand the positive changes taking root, as employees began to embrace a renewed sense of purpose in their roles. One sunny afternoon, Jordan took a short flight from New York to Miami. As he boarded, he was greeted by a friendly flight attendant named Mia. She offered him a warm smile and asked if he would like sparkling water or juice. Throughout the flight, Mia and her colleague, Leo, exhibited a genuine attentiveness toward all passengers, ensuring everyone felt welcomed and cared for. As they landed, Jordan felt a sense of pride wash over him. The transformation he had envisioned was happening. Employees were no longer merely adhering to rules, they were embodying the very essence of the airline's mission. After the flight, Jordan approached Mia and Leo, thanking them for their excellent service. "You both did an outstanding job today," he said, genuine appreciation in his voice. They beamed at his compliment, their smiles reflecting the pride they felt in their work. As he left the plane, Jordan couldn't help but feel optimistic about the future of Horizon Airlines. The lessons learned from a painful incident had sparked a movement toward kindness and respect, ensuring that every passenger, regardless of their appearance, would feel valued and welcomed. Through honesty, accountability, and a commitment to change, Horizon Airlines had not only recovered from a scandal but had emerged stronger, ready to redefine the standards of customer service in the aviation industry. And for Jordan, the journey had just begun.